Hello everyone. I just want to do a little disclaimer before I start the next video. This is actually where I keep my car collection. We've recently started doing some renovations around the house, and my partner and I have been able to dig up a lot of my collection that's been in storage for many years. So when I say that I need to dig out a group of cars for a video or a topic, these are basically the containers I have to sift through every time. I managed to sort that one out yesterday into nationalities at least, so I can narrow it down a little bit. I would love to have the room and the storage to do it brand by brand, so that if anyone ever comments and goes, hey, you know, I own a Chev, have you got any Chevs? And I'll be like, yeah, sure, let me just grab the whole box off the shelf, put them on a shelf out and display, and let's do a vid, let's go. But yeah, so digging through these with full-time work and the house being renovated, these things can take time. So just, if you wonder why it takes me a little while to get back to any suggestions or recommendations, this is why. Also, there is the dog, because everyone loves to see dogs. Dogs make the world go round. That is Louis. Louis! Lou! Hello. Hello. Yeah, he's getting a bit old. His hearing and his sight's starting to go a little bit, but he's just as boisterous as he was the day we got him, so... but yeah, so I just thought I'd do a little disclaimer before we start the next video today. And it is a viewer request, so keep them coming. Let me know if you need any, and let's get into it. Alright, so we'll get into it today. A little bit different, new backdrop for this particular video. Ever since I was a kid, slightly off topic, I've really wanted one of these big sailing ships that you see around. And I've always either never had the space or I never had the money. And then a couple of weeks back when I was shopping for more cars, of course, yeah, I was just in the right place at the right time and I picked up this little beauty. Her name is Belém. She's French, named after a Brazilian city, I believe, and she used to run trade between there and France, where she was based. I can't remember the port she was in France. I did look it up, but yeah, strange quirk of fate, as it turns out. When I mentioned this to my brother, he used to have a housemate that's actually from Belém, and there is also a Portuguese city named after it, which he has visited as well. So this this video has got a few quirks like that today. Before we start as well, I would just like to also pour one out for my beloved F111 keychain. I picked this up from the Air Museum up the coast about 5 years ago, and she'd served me very, very well through many, many hours of work and hard work. And then about a week or two ago, I came home and somehow she snapped a wing, and I don't even know where this happened. I don't know how it happened, but on the plus side, now I have an excuse to go back up the coast, go see that museum again, and I might even do a video for it. See how we go. But today's video is about these little German guys. And this one came as a suggestion from the last video. Viewer by the name of We Car Boot, which I had to read twice to make sure I had it right, mentioned they were a collector from Canada, which is really cool. Like, as I said, it's cool that my videos get viewed, but to get someone's attention from the other side of the world, that was really cool. Another fun fact, my old boss's wife was from Canada as well, Halifax. If you don't know what happened there in 1917, you should probably look it up, because it was pretty nasty. Yes, I'm a history nerd, so, you know, when people name places, I immediately go for, oh, there was a battle there, or, oh, something blew up there, or this happened, this. Yeah, it's weird. Anyway, they mentioned that they were they specialize with collecting Volkswagens. And looking for some ideas when I was cleaning up, I thought, you know what, why don't we dig out the Volkswagens? As it turns out, quite a few more than I expected. Nowhere near as many as a lot of my other brands. I was thinking of digging out the old Porsches as well, because, you know, Porsche and Volkswagen go hand in hand when it comes to air-cooled stuff, but we'll save that for another day because there's just so many Porsches, they probably wouldn't even fit on here, to be honest. So we're going to start down the end here with this little weird guy. I will apologize in advance. I know the basic Volkswagen models, but I don't know them all by memory. So you're probably going to see me lifting up a lot of these off camera to check the name on them, and I'm actually doing it now for this little guy. So in civilian use, these are known as the Volkswagen Type 181, based off the military vehicle that they used during World War II, known as the Kubelwagen. Kubelwagen was basically the German version of the American Jeep. I'm just scanning over here to show you the other one that I have sitting in this little box set here. After the war, they made quite a few of them for civilian use. As you can see here, this one's been heavily customized, air-cooled, rear engine, as you can see there. They did actually make an amphibious version of this thing as well during World War II called the Schwimmwagen, which I don't have. I don't think I've ever actually seen one in that form. Now, we'll cycle across because, of course, when you think Volkswagen, you immediately think of the Beetle, the people's car, the classic machine. As you can see there, I do have a Herbie, and I've got a very, very hippie love bug. That little guy, and if we just quickly go over to him, those two would probably be in contention for the oldest out of my Volkswagens. One thing I didn't realize until I went through my collection yesterday, a lot of these cars are pushing 50 years old, some of them even closer to 60, which is just incredible. Like, I'm not just talking about the car they're based off, the actual toy itself. And I just wish these things could talk, you know? Some of the stories that these things would have, especially this guy as well. Like, some of these I've bought from new. A lot of these I have bought from new, sorry. But a couple like that I have found secondhand, and I just can only imagine the adventures that they have had over the years and the number of kids that have played with them. In fact, if we just quickly have a squiz. This is an off-brand one. It doesn't even tell me the year it was built. So we're just going to have to use our imagination there. There is a bright pink one. I've kind of hit the stereotypes here, haven't I? I've got the movie star, the hippie car, the very, very girly one. And then we've got two modern ones over here. We've got just your basic modern Beetle. And then we've also got a tuned one, which is it's an RSR or RSI? No, that's the Beetle Cup car. I actually have fond memories of these things because Gran Turismo 3 had them. And I distinctly remember when I played Gran Turismo 3, when it first came out back in the day, using the Cup car for a lot of events. I think I'd won it in something, and I just sort of rolled with it for a while. So yeah, it's just one of those cars that sticks in my mind. As you probably saw as well, I have the Volkswagen Beetle from Lilo and Stitch, one of my favourite movies growing up as a kid. I'm going to pretend that the remake just never happened, and this was the only one they ever made. I really wanted to dig this one out because, unfortunately, the actress that played Lilo in that passed away recently, which was a real sucky thing. Like, that was a massive blow. Like, having people from your childhood pass like that, especially someone as young as her, she was really, really young, and it was really sad to see. If anyone hasn't seen this film, there's a very famous sort of meme scene in that where Stitch, the little alien dude, actually picks this thing up, and in this really high-pitched voice, he does like a blue punch buggy and like throws it at one of the guys he's fighting, which is obviously what that one is there. So when I saw it, I was like, I just have to get it. You know, it's a nostalgic thing, which is pretty much what this channel is. It's you know, 50% cars, 50% random military and vehicles, hence the sailing ship, and, you know, then a smattering of nostalgia thrown in there as well. So those are my Beetles, because no Volkswagen collection would be complete without them. If we cycle down to the front here, these two have a bit of a close spot or a soft spot for me. These are the Volkswagen Carmen Gears. Very gorgeous little convertible machines. Is my phone going to focus properly, or is it still going to be fuzzy? I apologize, guys. We've been having some issues. As I've said before, working full time in that, I pretty much have to film everything off my phone, and sometimes the quality is not that great, but we'll work with it. So the reason I have a soft spot for the Carmen Gears is when I was growing up, I had a neighbor just around the corner from a friend's house who was restoring a a dark green one of these, which was really cool. And every time you walk past, once a week or so on the weekends, he'd have something new done. The wheels would be on it, then the headlights would be on it, then there'd be a windscreen, and then one day I finally saw it driving around, which is cool. I've seen a few around town since then as well. But yeah, I've always liked the little Carmen Gears. They're pretty cool little cars. I was lucky enough to work with a couple at my old job, so that was pretty nifty. If we cycle across, something a bit sportier. These two guys are the Volkswagen SP2s. I don't know a lot about them. I do know that they're a little sports model that Volkswagen did back in the day. I think I vaguely remember seeing one in one of my Forza games. So don't really have too much to do with them, but we'll give a good look. The SP2s, cool little cars. And then this little guy, looks like a Golf, is not a Golf, as I found out. This guy, bring him forward, is known as a Volkswagen Brasilia. Little two-door hatch. Again, I'm assuming by the name it's some sort of export model for South America and whatnot. VW, of course, big history and big following in South America, a lot of production there. The last Beetle and Combi to be built, I think, was built in a South American factory not that long ago, so very long lineage with these guys, so it makes sense that they would have a car for that market, or at least named for that market. Just cycling back to the Beetles quickly, we've got two beach buggies. I love these little things. I love this type in particular, mainly because when I was a kid, one of my favorite music videos was Rockefeller Skank from Fatboy Slim, which very distinctly had one of them in it for a while. And I think that was one of my earliest car memories as a kid. And it does help that at my current job, there is someone that drives around the neighborhood with one of them. So you do see it once or twice a week, which is pretty cool. And then there's your more conventional bug up over there. And now we move over to the Golfs, of course. When you think VW, this is probably the other car you think of, the Golfs. And we've got quite a few. We've got one of the very first Mark 1s. We've got another Mark 1 here, which is going to take center stage briefly. It's a rally style sort of machine, which I absolutely love. It's got a little bonnet that does open. We can see an engine in there, which needs a very big clean, as does most other things. At some point in its life, it would have had a spare tire. This one was an op shop special that I found secondhand. And this guy is probably in contention for the oldest Volkswagen I have, because he is 1978. There you go. 1978. So I wasn't even thought of for another 11 years when that thing rolled out of the factory. Which is pretty cool. Again, you can just imagine how many memories and how many kids have had time with these cars before you find them sometimes. And that's not even my oldest car. I have way older than that. At least 4 or 5 years older than that. But we'll do a deep dive one day and we'll try and get to the bottom of it. There's a little Golf Cabriolet. I think that's based off a Mark IV, which was like early 2000s, which was the one I'm most familiar with. Got a couple of later Mark 7s and Mark 6s. Again, kind of have fond memories of the Mark 6 Golf, because as most car people, I grew up playing Need for Speed Most Wanted from day dot, and that was one of the starter cars in it. I think the first boss race you had was against a Mark 6 Volkswagen, so, you know, just one of those random little cars that sticks out for me. because of my childhood. Cycle back to the two commercial ones that I have. We, of course, have a Volkswagen Touareg, big 7-seater SUV type thing. I don't really dig commercial vehicles too much. I suppose I'm more of a sports car, traditional car aficionado. I don't really like collecting minivans and SUVs. Don't even know where this one came along from. It might have even been in an op shop special. So, I was quite familiar with the Audi version of it, the Q7, at one of my old jobs, and not for good reasons. They had all sorts of things going on there. This little guy, I'm just going to quickly check, because this is one I haven't actually come across before. This is not an Amarok. It's a Saviero Cross, which I had never heard of. If anyone really is familiar with one of these, please let me know, but I'd never really heard of it. I was thinking it was an Amarok when I first grabbed it out of the collection until I checked and realized it was from 2011, and I don't think the Amarok was even built at that point. So yeah, that threw me off a little bit. Of course, we got the box set of classics, the newer Beetle, another Carmen. Actually, that green there is about one shade lighter than my neighbour's car was. So that one there, another Type 181, a Beetle, of course, and a Combi. The two iconic Volkswagens there. And then over here, we have a couple of sportier Volkswagens, which I'm quite proud of. This one here is a race version of the Scirocco R, as you can see there. I think this is based off of I think it's a Cup car that they race. It's like a one-make series with that. Even this little guy, like, I don't even know how old he is. Pushing a decade, which surprises me. Don't know too much about the Siroccos, never really had a lot to do with them. I know a lot of kids get them for the rattle can exhaust tunes and drive me insane, so we're just going to put you over here before you start deafening us. Now these two I'm quite proud of because they were ones that I sort of picked up on a whim many, many years ago, and then I just never saw them again. Just one of those random cars that you pick up, and then for some reason you just never see them on show again in shops. I'm just checking the years on them because I know that they're fairly old. There you go. That one is an off-brand, doesn't have a year. That one is from 2001. Quarter of a century old. And if we wheel her into the light a little bit, I'm just going to try and get out of the shadow so it does have some light. There you go. Quarter of a century old. She still looks pretty damn good. These two, for those that don't know, was a concept Volkswagen built known as the Nardo, N-A-R-D-O. It's a high-performance supercar, as you can see from the shape and the design. It's named after the Nardo test track in Italy. Big, very big circular type oval, which was used for a lot of speed records over the years from a few manufacturers. This one here, I think, was the first one I picked up from a Target, of all things, and I think it was back in 2009 when I first started this collecting business. I don't actually know when I picked him up. This one took me by surprise because, as far as I knew, when I first went to dig the V-dubs out, I thought I only had one Nardo, so you can imagine my surprise when I found a second one. Yeah, Mr. President, a second Nardo has hit the desk. Sorry, it's Sunday morning, I'm still half asleep, so... But yes, when We Car Boot mentioned they were a Volkswagen collector, the Nardo was the first car I thought of. I was like, well, they're gonna expect a couple of Beetles and a couple of, Siroccos, Golfs, the usual. But I wonder if they've ever come across these two guys. I can't remember if the Nardo was in any car games I played. I think it was in one of the test drive games back in the day, but I don't remember driving it in anything else. That's not to say it wasn't in anything else. I just don't remember using it very much. But it was a concept car, but it was built. It did have a functioning engine. It was a W12, which is basically two V6 engines bolted together, hence the W. And yeah, I don't know how many they built. I don't know what happened to the concept, but yeah, this thing came out late 90s, early 2000s, around the same time as probably that Mark IV convertible. So yeah, one of those things where the company that builds this is also the company that builds that, which was pretty cool. But yeah, I do have a soft spot for the Nardo. It was just one of those out there cars that you would not expect from Volkswagen, given the lineage of little hatches and things and Econo cars that they have built. Although, you know, your Karmann Gears, you do have a couple of sport models around the place. Volkswagen themselves, of course, own a huge range of automotive stuff these days. They own Audi, Bentley, Lamborghini, Seat, Skoda. I'm sure there's a few more thrown in there that I can't think of right now. So yeah, Volkswagen Auto Group is a massive powerhouse and always has been, I suppose. Fun little story. I had a customer at my old job who specialized with Volkswagens. And of course, the abbreviation for Volkswagen Auto Group is VAG. And I kid you not, their business was literally called VAG Cafe, which, if you pronounce it, sounds like Vag Cafe. So, you know, you can imagine that you got a few laughs out of everybody anytime that you got an inquiry from them. So, but yeah, sort of by request, sort of just gave me the idea to do it. So thank you to We Car Boot for mentioning their Volkswagen collection. It's really cool to be able to connect with collectors, let alone collectors from the other side of the world, you know, which is really, really cool. And I'm glad that, you know, some of this stuff's getting out there and reaching out to people. As I said, it's more of a nostalgia trip for me, looking at all these. Some of these cars, the Nardo, the orange one in particular, was from the very start of my collection. So to see the progression from when I first did it, it's a cool thing. But yes, this is my little Volkswagen collection and a special guest sailing ship. If there's anything else you want to have us look at, any other cars you can think of that you might want to see, feel free to reach out and let me know. As I mentioned at the start, I'm still in the process of unpacking everything, but we're getting there. I'm thinking next video I might do some of my military stuff, which I am much more familiar with. I started off collecting military stuff and got into cars later on. But yeah, growing up, it was always cars and military stuff. So let me know what you want to see next time around, if there's anything in particular. Otherwise, we will put something together, and I will catch you all in the next video. Take care, and thank you.